Will Indiana's incredible rise continue against Alabama of all programs? We're exploring that on a crossover edition of Locked On College Football and Locked On Hoosiers.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to a crossover edition of Locked On College Football. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, and Locked On Hoosiers. He is Jacob Goins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. We appreciate you all very much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. All things Indiana and Alabama, and then Indiana again. What are they going to do at quarterback in the future? We shall discuss. This episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Let's start with the Alabama angle here, Goins.
All right.
According to our aforementioned friends at FanDuel, do you realize that Indiana is favored by 6.5 points? I just want to point out that number one was totally fair. I'd probably lean right now Indiana to win and cover. Number two, the ridiculousness of that sentence is beyond comprehension. I'm trying to think of, I mean this is a compliment. I mean this as in, I don't know what the comparison is. Lance Leipold making Kansas relevant again what has been an incredible coaching job.
Yeah.
And it pales in comparison to what Curt Cignetti has done at Indiana. What do you make of where the Hoosiers currently are?
Well, it's fascinating because year one under Curt Cignetti was just that. It was, oh my God, what is happening? We don't know what to do. We've never been here before. Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands. Okay. And year one was magical. It was fantastic. It was the best season in the history of the program. And Indiana football fans really genuinely did not know what to do. And expectations coming into 2025 were like, all right, let's see what we got. Let's see what happens. You bring in a bunch of transfers, including Fernando Mendoza. There was excitement, but it wasn't, let's be the number one seed. Let's win the Big Ten title. Let's get a Heisman trophy, and let's go win ourselves an Natty. Nobody was saying that. Nobody was asking that. Nobody even thought about that because year one was what it was. And we thought, all right, we'll come back down to earth, 8-9 wins, and we'll be fine. Then you start winning games. Then you beat the brakes off of Illinois in a top 10 game. Then you survive against Iowa. Then you go on the road and beat Oregon. Then you roll off every single game on your schedule as a W. And fans are like, yep, this is it. This is awesome. This is what being at the top of college football is all about. Then you beat Ohio State. Now you're the number one seed. And so weirdly enough, Spencer, Indiana fans have already shipped off the idea of, man, we're just happy to be here. Man, this is just, we're going to enjoy the ride. Heck no, they're excited about it. And there's a lot of old school Indiana fans that listen to Locked On Hoosiers, and I'm sure some that don't, that have talked about this. And they're like, this is the greatest moment of my life. This is the greatest year of being a sports fan that I've ever had. And when you've got people who are saying, I'm 65, I'm 75, I'm pushing 90 years old, and this is the best year of sports I've ever seen, man, that's special. That means something. And so a lot of people are appreciative, yes, of where this is, but so many people are like, man, this is cool, but let's go win the dang thing. Let's cap it off. Let's make this season truly the best it can be. And I think Indiana's got a good enough football team to do it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And think about it from this angle. And it's not everything, but it is something. They do not have as much talent on their roster as they could in 2 to 3 years' time. Can you imagine Curt Cignetti with Ohio State's roster?
Oh, my God.
He just outcoached them in the Big Ten title game with a handful of NFL guys, to be sure. There are no 5-star recruits on Indiana's roster, guys that are ready to... They're zero. Caleb Downs isn't on one side and Jeremiah Smith on the other with a 5-star quarterback. Like, the guys that he's doing it with, look at Fernando Mendoza's time at Cal. He just got turned into the Heisman Trophy winner. I know that came with some controversy because his numbers weren't blowing anybody away, but he deserved to be in that conversation. I don't think anybody's arguing that. Look at what he did at Cal. He was never close to that. Like, the job that Cignetti's done, I've been trying, and I want you to help me with this. What's the comparison? What is the coaching comparison? Because the equivalent example I could think of right now, Will Stein just got hired to Kentucky. He's going to coach Oregon through their playoff run. They play Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl on January 1st. Try to imagine for a moment the 2027 SEC champion Kentucky Wildcats beating Georgia in the title game. That's what we're talking about here.
But worse.
Yeah, the program has done... Indiana's been worse than Kentucky.
By a lot.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know what...
Wild.
I don't know what the secret sauce is, but there's no contrast. There's no comparison for any of this. But frankly, I appreciate what you're saying about Indiana fans, that in year one, they were able to say, okay, this is just fun. We're happy to be here. All right, Notre Dame beat the crap out of us. Okay, they're ahead of where we're at. This was a great year. But to be in year two and say, you know what? We can go win it. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I think it means Indiana fans know ball because they're watching the team going, well, wait a minute. We just beat Ohio State. We could beat anybody.
Yeah, well, there was hesitancy at the start, I'll admit. In the first couple of games of the season, didn't go pretty. I mean, Old Dominion wasn't within a couple of scores, and, nobody's going to give you credit for beating Kennesaw and Indiana State on a Friday night. Like, nobody was saying, yep, we're 3-0. We beat had the worst non-conference schedule in the country. God, so glad we're past that. But nobody was...
I mean, I'm not, but...
I know, it's fine. But anyway, nobody after a 3-0 start in Bloomington was saying, yep, this is a repeat of last year. It was the the Illinois game, rather, that was just so significant and so awesome. It was the biggest home game in the history of Indiana football, and they won it by 45, 50 points, whatever the final score. And that was when it was like, oh, all right, maybe they're good again. Maybe this team, and you brought a ton of talent back, and you went and got the transfer portal quarterback and things. But man, there are some folks in college football that think this is really cool. And if you don't, shame on you, because it is. But there are a lot of people in college football that are really concerned and really upset with Indiana, not because they're winning. It's how they're doing it. It's the idea that Curt Cignetti, as grandpa wearing glasses and going to bed early, is beating everybody and beating their brains in. And he's doing it with James Madison football players and transfer portal quarterbacks that nobody else wanted from California. He's changing the game of college football, where Ohio State can spend all the money they want, but Indiana's going to win games doing it their way. And there are some folks in the nation that do not like what's happening at Indiana. Me personally, though, I absolutely love it.
I imagine you do. How was my Cignetti slouch impression?
Pretty good. A little bit too much of a grin. Yeah.
Frown
a little bit more. Yeah. Think about it. Yeah. There you go. Just a little bit more. Yeah.
Oh, I got to tilt the head, and I got to get glasses.
Look at the scoreboard. Be mad that you're only up by 55.
It's only 42-8. We give it a 2-point conversion, huh?
Yep.
Goodness. He's truly one of one, and of course he signed to stay in Bloomington, which is good because there's a big job available as we record this show in Ann Arbor. Bye. That would have been exciting. When we get back, we're diving more into the Alabama matchup, and I can absolutely believe that Indiana's favored. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment, and you can bet the game that we are about to talk about. Alabama, a 6.5-point underdog to Indiana. Why don't you go say that sentence to somebody in calendar year 2023? We didn't know it was Saban's last year at the time, but guess what? It was, and here we are, just 2 short seasons later, and they're favored by around a touchdown. If you think that's too many points, Alabama plus 6.5 is free and available to you. Might not be free at the end. If you think Indiana is rolling the Crimson Tide, hey, right there is Indiana minus 6.5. All the college football playoff games, the lines, the point totals, the money lines, everything you want, FanDuel's got you covered. So, if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel. The game moves fast, and so can you. Alabama, a 6.5-point underdog to the Indiana Hoosiers. Why? Indiana's a more complete football team, right, Jacob? To me, it's as simple as that.
And
we've watched these teams play a combined, what are they, 14 and 27 games. I know Indiana's the more complete football team. There's a path where Alabama wins. When you've got a great quarterback and really good receivers, you can overcome a lot. But I think Alabama's path to victory against Indiana is very narrow compared to the number of different ways that the Hoosiers could beat the Crimson Tide.
Well, it's because of what everybody has talked about, even going into the Alabama-Oklahoma game. It's the idea that the Crimson Tide are one-dimensional. And, man, how many times can they win big games? And credit to them, they did. I think Oklahoma gave it to them more than Alabama won it. But how many times can the Crimson Tide win big games and not run the football? It's wild to me that they can't run the ball. And that's an Alabama team from the South, from the SEC, that was built on defense and running the football, and they just simply can't do so offensively. But Ty Simpson, who is not 100% and took some lumps in the Oklahoma game, he delivers when it matters. And the defense had some opportunistic, plays. And, of course, Oklahoma, again, I think the Sooners gave that game away compared to Alabama just taking it from them and winning it. But they moved on, and I think Indiana is good enough, like Georgia was good enough, to expose the issues that Alabama has. I really do think this could be a similar type of score, a similar type of game that you saw in Atlanta in the SEC championship game, except Indiana's offense is better than Georgia's, and they're not afraid to show it against anybody. Curt Cignetti, we know this. He wants to shove it down your throat as much as he can and prove that he can hang 60 on you on any given day. And so I think Indiana, you're right, has more ways to win and less ways to lose compared to Alabama, whose margin is just so slim. They have to play so well. They've got to put Indiana in situations the Hoosiers have not been in this season. Multiple turnovers, 3-and-outs, punting, special teams, all that type of stuff that Indiana simply doesn't do and hasn't done all year. Alabama has to do that for 4 quarters, and I just don't trust them to do that, A, against Indiana, but B, just in general. I've watched enough of that Alabama team. I just don't trust them week to week, and I don't see how they do it, Spencer. I really don't.
25. Do you know what the number 25 represents, Jacob?
Oh, goodness. Something
take a guess.
Is it Alabama's rushing total against either – no, it wasn't against Georgia because they were negative yards, I believe. I think that's their rushing total against the Sooners. Am I right?
You're so close. That's their rushing total in their last 2 games combined.
I was all over it.
You were so close, man. You were right there, and I was. For those watching on YouTube, you could see my facial expression. I was so ready for you to get there, and you didn't quite. That's how many yards they've run for. Look, Indiana, to me, is not a dominant running team. They want to throw the ball, and Fernando Mendoza going to the wide receiver, that's when they're at their best, without question. The difference between these two teams is that Indiana's run game is at least serviceable. It doesn't have to be – a great offense doesn't need to have perfect balance, and you have to be able to have heavy play-action pass. No, you don't. You really don't. But to me, if you're going to make a sustained run in the playoff, you've got to at least be serviceable in both aspects of your offense. I don't even feel like Alabama or Indiana really are big play-action teams. That's not what they're really built around. They're about deep shots, the back shoulder fades, and creativity with their offensive schemes, especially with Ryan Grubb at Alabama. But in a 3rd and 2, if the defense knows that it's more than if it's more than 3rd and a yard, and the defense knows you're not running the ball, it just
that's what's baffling. I don't see how they've gotten this far. I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Because Indiana, you're right. Indiana, when they want to throw the ball, I mean, they'll line up and throw the ball. They're not going to fool you. They're not going to, there's no RPO play. I mean, they have some, obviously, but they're not scared to just say, all right, Fernando, let it go, brother. Do your thing. Let it rip. Let it fly. And, Indiana can run the ball, I think. I think Roman Hemby and Kalen Black are two very underrated running backs who are both at, I think, 900 and 800 yards on the season. Like, that's a great 1-2 punch on the year. Indiana can run the ball when they want to and use it effectively, and they get some chunk plays here and there that really keep drives alive. Alabama just can't. And that's the difference in this type of a game is, look, Fernando Mendoza is the better quarterback. There's no question, but Indiana can run the ball when they need to. And I'm worried for Alabama when they're in long down distance situations, 2nd and 12 or 3rd and 15 or even 3rd and 8, right? You know what they're going to do. And I think Indiana's too good defensively with Bryant Haines to get beat time after time in situations like that.
That's where I'm at as well. And with regards to the ground game, like in the Big Ten championship game, Indiana ran for 118 yards.
Yeah.
If Alabama can hit 120 in this game, that would change everything.
Not happening.
By the way, I don't think they will, because this Indiana run defense, led by Aiden Fisher, and the defensive line, which we do need to talk about in just a moment, is really, really good. Bryant Haines should win the Broyles Award. There are a lot of good nominees at that. Matt Patricia at Ohio State, that could be a really good selection. Bryant Haines he'd get my vote.
Who's extended, by the way, and not leaving Bloomington for the next 3 years, according to his contract.
Yeah, okay.
According to his contract.
He flew under the radar in this cycle, my man. That is not going to happen
He just signed it the other day, man. He's fine. He's not going anywhere. Mike Shanahan's not going anywhere. Curt Cignetti's not going anywhere. I will speak it into existence, Spencer.
Bryant Haines will be a head coach by 2027.
You shut your mouth right now.
I'm very confident. Hey, maybe he'll be Michigan's head coach. You never know.
You better stop.
Yeah. So let's talk about the one thing that could be a little saving grace for Alabama, because they haven't just been unable to run block this year. They have not been all that great in pass protection at times. And when Ty Simpson gets under pressure, they haven't had answers because they haven't been as good of a screen team as Ryan Grubb's offenses usually are. And they have one way to beat you. It's the downfield pass. That's what they're going to do. If you take that away, Alabama really doesn't have anything else. But how significant is the injury up front in your mind for the Hoosiers?
Yeah, Stephen Daly's a big loss. It is. I mean, that's one that, and look, we've talked about it a lot on my show in particular. Everybody knows how it happened, why it happened. It really was a freak accident. And it is what it is. It's sports. It's life, right? And it sucks. And all you can do is
it's not like he was even doing anything reckless.
That's what I've said. He wasn't out partying, jumping through tables. Like, he was just celebrating.
High-fiving fans.
Yeah, it sucks. But, I mean, again, you can sit around and lick your wounds all day, or you got to figure out who steps up. And I think there's a couple of options there. That's what is good, is Indiana has depth, but Stephen Daly was 3rd in the country in TFLs. Like, he was legit. And a lot of that was in the run game, yes, but a guy that you just trust. You feel comfortable with him on the line. And so Indiana's going to have to move some things around. Good news is, in terms of getting after the quarterback, a lot of that does come from the second level. Guys like Aiden Fisher, Elijah Hardy, those types of guys. You still feel good with your boys up front, like a Michael Kamara, who's been quiet this season. But in terms of their numbers, I mean, Stephen Daly was 3rd on the team in sacks. So I still trust the Hoosiers to get after Ty Simpson. I keep going back to the Big Ten championship game where they sacked Julian Sayin 5 times. And that's one of the better offensive lines in all of college football at Ohio State. So I just don't think, again, unless Alabama draws something up that we're not prepared for, and we being the entire country, I don't see how they can just say, yeah, we're going to drop back and throw it 35, 40 times and let and protect our quarterback from Indiana, because it comes from 2 levels. Secondary, not really that 3rd level, not really a whole lot of sack action there, but open field tackling, coming up to make plays on screen passes and out passes and things. Indiana's so disciplined defensively. I don't. I have so much confidence in that defense, and it comes off as arrogance, and that's fine. But I'm going to believe in Bryant Haines until they give me a reason not to.
I have been very praiseworthy of the Alabama defense because they have quietly been playing some really good football. Frankly, I feel a little worse about them after their playoff game. 24 points to Oklahoma is not good.
Yeah,
that is
your second time around too. Your second time.
That's not a good performance against that Oklahoma. It's not bad. Obviously, the pick six, huge turning point in that game. They ratcheted up the defensive pressure up front, and that swung things back in their favor. But on the whole, a 24-point performance. I have seen worse defenses perform better against Oklahoma this year. I'll leave it at that. When we get back, we're going to go in a little off-season chatter because Fernando Mendoza is here now, but he's of course gone after the season.
We don't know that. There's nothing official.
Who is going to be Indiana's quarterback in 2026? We'll discuss that coming up next. So I'll preface this segment, Goins, by saying we're recording the show on Sunday, getting ahead on a little holiday work. I doubt an announcement has been made, but a lot of names have been tied to the University of Indiana, or Indiana University, IU,
Indiana
right?
University,
Indiana
IU.
University. Yes. See, correct it. I said it out loud, and then my brain was like, nope, Spencer, that's wrong. Don't say that. Don't say that. You want Hoosier fans to like you out there.
It's all right. So, you won't have a choice but to get it right when they win the Natty.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a wild conversation to have, but very fair. Anyway, earlier this week on my show, I talked about Josh Hoover. I think he's the best quarterback in the portal. He is the most proven statistically. He was my number one quarterback in the Big 12 coming into this season. Yes, he needs to cut down on the turnovers a little bit. I think he would be great in Indiana's system. I've talked about Sam Levitt, who has also been, according to On3, reportedly tied to the Indiana Hoosiers coming out of the Big 12. A great quarterback conference. Always was. Folks like me were pointing that out going into the season, and here we are, two of the top transfer quarterbacks available in what is very quickly becoming the most stacked transfer quarterback class maybe of all time, or at least since the year where Penix went to Washington and Bo Nix and Caleb Williams, and they all went up, but they all didn't transfer at the same time. Yeah. So if you had your pick, is it going to be Alberto Mendoza? Is that the answer, Goins? Or would you go after one of these guys, and who would be, if you had pick of the litter?
Yeah.
Who would you take?
Well, here's the thing. They're all different, right? They all have their ups, they all have their downs, they all have their pros, and they all have their cons. I've talked about this since Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman, the idea that Indiana now can go out and have its pick of the litter, man. They can go and get whoever they want to because money is not a problem. And I do want to put to bed the $3.5 million thing from Mestamaker. That's not true. Okay. We could put that aside for now. Indiana has the money, and that is not an issue. But
really, I'd heard that there was an offer that went there. You've heard differently on Mestamaker?
I've been told that is a very, what's the word?
Exaggerated?
Yes.
Exaggerated. Okay.
Yes, exaggerated to say the least. But Spencer, there's no communication right now. Indiana's not talking to quarterbacks and transfer.
No, that would
guys.
be tampering.
No, nobody's talking because the portal doesn't open until January 2nd.
That's right. No communications are going to be had, which is why guys have entered the portal as far and ahead as 2 weeks from when the portal opens. Yes,
they have announced their intention to enter the portal.
Right.
Yes, no, but seriously, Indiana will be in contact with all of these guys. And I think Mestamaker is fantastic. He's the nation's leading passer for a reason, and he would not be the first G5 quarterback to step in and be successful at Indiana in this short time under Curt Cignetti. Or you could go get a P4 guy like a Josh Hoover, who I think is fantastic and talked about on my show yesterday. Turnovers, yes, are an issue. But when you just talk about a step back, drop back passer and pro level passer, It's Josh Hoover. And guess what? The past 2 quarterbacks at Indiana, Curtis Rourke, who's in the NFL, and then Fernando Mendoza, who, my glorious king, will be in the NFL as well as the nation's #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. That's what they are. They're pro-style passers. Can they run? Sure, but those guys were drop back and toss an absolute dart. That's what Josh Hoover can do as well. And so Sam Levitt was surprising to me. That one, we started to hear those rumblings, right, the last couple of weeks coming down the stretch of the season. But I think you talk about an experienced guy, a winner. Sam Levitt is that one too. I think right now it's Josh Hoover for me, but that can change given if other names enter or if some things come around, if money does become an issue from the player side, not the Indiana side, because Indiana's shown and proven that they are willing to pay, but not pay out the wazoo for one player where they can go get 3 or 4 for the same price. You know what I mean? So right now, Josh Hoover would probably be my pick. But if I had to settle for the nation's leading passer and maker, I think I would be okay.
Yeah, a couple of interesting quarterback notes as well. Arch Manning announced last week that he's going to take a pay cut to help Texas compete. I didn't know that was the in the NFL, that language makes sense. But let's say Arch is getting, this is hypothetical, $5 million a year, and he takes a $2 million pay cut. That's like 2 or 3 players, you know? Whereas in the NFL, if Tom Brady wanted to make $20 million instead of $50 million, well, that's like 7 players.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure Tom Brady didn't he?
Yeah. He could have made a lot more, and then he went on the cheap contractually, and maybe that's what Arch is thinking. I don't know. I feel like that was more of a messaging thing than anything else. Another name who I'd actually heard might have drawn some interest, or would have drawn some interest had he gone into the portal, but announced he would stay, is Darian Mensah at Duke.
Yeah.
Who just, by the way, that's ACC champion Darian Mensah at Duke.
It's disgusting.
The 8-5 Blue Devils, man.
Oh, terrible.
So give me a sleeper candidate to wrap this up. And again, maybe this has been announced. I doubt that it has by the time this show airs, which is Christmas Eve 2025, because I don't think we're going to know until the portal actually. Goins just had the power surge.
Oh my God, we're good. We're alive. We're good. Everything's fine.
Good. That's good. If
my camera cuts out and you hear me screaming, it's because somebody broke in. But we're okay. We're committed. We're here.
Let's say hypothetically,
yeah,
Hoover winds up. I think Hoover can just spin it, man. I could see him in that offense.
He is.
I think he's got the best arm talent. He's really good.
Yeah.
Let's say Levitt goes to LSU. Hoover winds up at Miami. Mestamaker goes with his coach to Oklahoma State.
Oh, no.
Where would you pivot? Would you look at a Dylan Raiola coming from Nebraska?
I wouldn't personally.
Okay, then just where would you look? Where would you look?
I don't. To be honest, and this is such a cop-out answer, I don't think that name is I don't think that name has announced his intention to enter the portal. God, I hate the language we have to use. I don't think that name is out there yet, honestly, because we still have a couple of weeks, and I still think, there are playoff guys who are still playing right now. There are playoff backups. I don't think Indiana would go after a backup, but I also don't think that Alberto Mendoza is completely off the table either. I want that to be known. But Indiana's going to get a quarterback. You cannot go into the season with a sophomore at that point, since he's a redshirt freshman this year, I believe. You cannot go into next year coming off of however this season ends with 2 legendary quarterbacks in Bloomington and put all of that faith and trust into Alberto Mendoza, who just isn't proven to this point. And that's not his fault. It just is what it is. But if you strike out or whatever, it doesn't work with those other players that we mentioned of Levitt and Mestamaker and Hoover. I don't think a name is in the portal right now that Indiana would say that's our guy if you miss out on the other ones, at least for now.
Yeah, I was thinking about Jaren Kiave Sangapolatele at Cal, and Tosh Lapoy locked that down really quick, which is a huge win for the beginning of his tenure in Berkeley, because he's going to be a true sophomore, so he's got 2 seasons of college football left. He's Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. I'm Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football, and that's where our crossover ends for today. Appreciate everyone listening. We'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.